60s, you didn't have really dedicated funding. So you don't have a funding stream and state of good repair programs. So that's where you're looking to go in the long run, is to have that dedicated funding and 25-year needs, 20 years, 10 year, 15, and have those programs built out with guaranteed funding. I mean, that's the long term. But right now, it's to get it back to a state of good repair and keep the public safe and keep it riding. So that's where we're at. We're at the beginning phase of this change. And it's been good. And we're planning for the next steps.
Welcome to another episode of Spilling the Tea. I'm your host, Andrew Cassidy of the MBTA's Customer and Employee Experience Department. And today, we're joined by Doug Connett, the MBTA's Chief of Infrastructure. Doug brings nearly 4 decades of experience in public transit and has taken on the critical role of overseeing the MBTA's infrastructure teams. From improving track safety to boosting rider experience, Doug and his team are at the forefront of the T's future. Today, we'll hear about his journey and the improvements in store for the MBTA. Doug, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Now, to start, I'd like to get to know your background a little bit. So you've had a long career in public transit, I believe starting as a track worker for the MTA. Can you share what inspired you to start in this field and what has kept you going for almost 40 years?
Yeah, that's a long time ago, but we definitely remember our starting point in the transit business. At the time, I was working at a city job at General Services in warehousing. So I was a warehouse manager, buyer, and it was pretty much dead end. You couldn't go any further. My mother was a civil servant and administrator at a university. So she had a civil service job. She was an immigrant from Troon. And my uncle, also immigrated from Troon, he worked in the railroad business. And he established a job as a superintendent in cars and shops doing vehicles, trains. And they talked to me and said, hey, it's a good job. Give it a try. So me and my nephew, we applied for each job. And I got the track worker's job, a job that seems to have a lot of opportunity, even though laboring, it was very hard for me to go from this administrative function. I says, I'm taking a shot and I'm going to take this job. And I loved it from the beginning because you saw what you did. It was a service. I enjoyed the service. You knew it was for the public, keep the trains running and driving, the camaraderie and the people for the customers and with the employees. You're always with these people and you saw this benefit. And I enjoyed it. And as I moved along through the career, I enjoyed doing the leadership, and I saw that they allowed a lot of change. They allowed you to institute change. They gave you the opportunity to take ideas from people, integrate them, try them out. So you had a lot of latitude. And I like to teach. So I got the latitude, I got to teach, I got to try new things. It was very self-fulfilling for me. And I find it to this day, very self-fulfilling. So that's how I started as a laborer. And I decided very quick on when I was throwing concrete and ties that I wasn't staying a laborer. When you're in the tunnels, very hard work. I said, wow, there's opportunity. We can mechanize. We could do this. We could do that. So it was nice that you could do those changes. So I instantly said, hey, I'm taking the moves. I'm going to make the moves. That's what I came here for. Right? I want to promote myself. I want to move my family along. I want to do the right thing. So, yeah, so I've really enjoyed it. I enjoy the business. I enjoy doing transit. I think it's a great industry. And you could do anything with your career, anywhere.
So what drew you to want to join the MBTA as its Chief of Infrastructure? And what does that new role entail? And what departments do you oversee?
I actually knew Boston had some issues when they had that red line train accident. And you were looking for a chief safety officer. And I actually thought that role fit me. I applied for that. So I was already looking at Boston and seeing, hey, there's opportunity. I did a little bit of consulting work for Boston. So I got to see a little bit of it. And I saw some of the need that was going on up here. So when I was reached out for this position, I was very anxious. I like to institute the change. I like to do the right thing. I enjoy, like I said, teaching, mentoring, bringing new products, showing people. And it seemed like it was a very siloed place, that it was kind of stuck in the mud and it needed somebody with a little bit of outside experience to help it along. So I thought it was a great opportunity to do something I love and give back at the same time. So I decided to give up the consulting piece and come back, put the gloves back on. And I'm a hands-on person. I like to be in the field. I like to see the people. I like to talk to the workers. I like to get them involved and get them prideful and push them, empower them. And I really enjoy that. So it was a perfect fit for me in what I am and what I believe I could do. So I jumped right on the opportunity, and fortunately, Phil and the executives, they selected me and brought me on board, and I'm very happy to be here.
So you're now the MBTA's chief of infrastructure. What does that actually entail?
Well, the main three groups that we have are MOW, which is the track inspectors and the track maintenance
That's
program.
maintenance away.
Maintenance away, they call it. There's several different names. We also relate with the TIP program on that side of the house. I also have the signal side of the house, which is signal communications and radio, all the signal systems on different train lines, which here is an interesting mix of systems that you have here. You also have the power department, which is the AC and DC and the distribution networks for both of those, which control all the powers for the stations, the trains, the catenary, the third rail. So that's the main piece of the maintenance side of the house. The engineering, we have engineering groups attached to each one of those segments who get involved with engineering problems. We have a signal issue. They'll try to find out what that problem is, relate to a signal issue, come up with a fix. They'll look at the PMIs, the standard practices, try to come up with the best practices, onboard new equipment. So they liaise between capital and maintenance. Even though they report to maintenance, they also feed into the capital side of the house. But there's a group attached to each one of those divisions for engineering wise. So that's the basic gist of it.
That's a good chunk of the MBTA.
Well, there's a lot more to it because we also have the OCI, or the operating side of the house, which Megan Chan leads, which handles a lot of the asset management. They do the SOPs and procedures. They do track access and diversions. They handle all the, any track time. They coordinate between contractors who needs to get on the track and the right of way. They handle all the paperwork, the bulletins and maintenance grams. We also have our own training divisions for each group. So we have trainings. We also have safety management, compliance. So there's a lot of other little pieces that support it. It's like going to war, right? There's one soldier, 10 support people. So she handles that big support, the payroll, the finance, all those mechanisms that keep the machine running.
You mentioned that you'd kind of had your eye on the MBTA since around 2019 with the red line derailment. But when you first arrived and you got the job, you're in the chair at the MBTA, what was the state of the system, particularly in terms of infrastructure and maintenance? And how did it compare to other systems that you've seen, like those in New York or DC?
I'd like to say there was a little shock and awe. I knew there were struggles here. I just didn't know how deep they went until you really started, flipping over rocks, started digging in, and I'm still getting surprised by some of the things that I'm finding. The state of repair, I kind of pictured it. If I closed my eyes, I would say it reminded me of the 80s in Manhattan and New York. The condition and the materials and all the things you had to work with, that it has a long way to go, which we're working on. Have we made a lot of changes? Yes, made a lot of changes in a short period of time. In fairness to the system, it's segregated systems. So it's not New York. It's not Washington. It's different. Your heavy rail lines have different trains on each line. Yeah. Right. The green
Vastly
line and your
different,
trial is different. Your Mattapan high speed is different and segregated. So you have these challenges because of the way it developed over its history. Where in New York, it developed with three different systems, but the three main systems where you could cross lines, you could get equipment, and it's a little different of an operation. And little is it's a small word that says a lot, behind it. So it's much harder to maintain just by the design. It's sheer design, it's sheer age than I would say New York is because of its access points and what it is. So there's a lot of challenges here. You also don't have great programs that were developed over time. Like I said, so you're behind the times with your programs. In the 80s, you didn't have really dedicated funding. So you don't have a funding stream and state of good repair programs. So that's where you're looking to go in the long run, is to have that dedicated funding and 25-year needs, 20 years, 10-year, 15, 5, and have those programs built out with guaranteed funding. I mean, that's the long-term solution to what I see here. But right now, it's to get it back to a state of good repair and keep the public safe and keep it riding. So that's where we're at. We're at the beginning phase of this change. And it's been good. It's been good. We've had our hiccups, but for the most part, we've satisfied what we've committed to at this point, and we're planning for the next steps.
Well, from what I've read and know about you, you're not afraid of a challenge. You're at the MTA for quite some time, and you even helped it kind of navigate the recovery post Superstorm Sandy, which was obviously had a massive impact on the region. What sort of lessons are you bringing with you from your experience at the MTA to the MBTA?
Well, you're speaking to resiliency and sustainability at that point, and your emergency response and your abilities. Some of it is how do you get power sources, redundant power sources, UPS systems, battery backup, putting something out of flood zones. We're looking at the storm doors. We just had a conversation over the other day about underground duct banks versus overhead duct banks, which you haven't really done here. You have some limitations, but why wouldn't we do it? We kind of get stuck in our culture. We keep doing the same thing over and over. Cookie cuttering, I call it. You know, you can take a print and say, hey, we did it. Here it is. Do it again, right? It's old. What's wrong with it? Do it again. But you need to put the energy. You have to take those lessons and build them in. Your tools, your equipment, your response. Look at your response periods. You have to take every day is an opportunity. So if we have a hiccup today, how did we respond? How can we do it better? So you always have to look for the better way. It may be more expensive, but it may be cost savings in the long run. So you have to do the budget assessments. You have to do the assessments and the assurance piece, but you need to have that ability to move. I find that here, there's a lot of people that say, hey, we tried that, we this, we that. Well, if you tried it, why are we where we are? Yeah, you tried it, but you never got it off the ground. So I see not a high success rate with programs, but they always took off, or we have a consulting, or we have a report, or we had this, or we had that. But where's the fruit? You know, so right now I'm picking up, I call it fruit on the ground, easy wins, right? There's a lot of easy wins all over it, but that's where you build your momentum. Mm-hmm. And now you have to have the thought process and build out the culture to empower them to take those sandy lessons. What does a generator look like? We had tunnels flooded because generators were on the ground. We had generators. Well, now we roof mounted them in New York. We roof mounted them. We put them out of harm's way. We put substations, extra pump rooms, right? We monitor SCADA systems to monitor the flow of water, storm walls. Sandbags, yeah, we started with sandbags. We moved to water bags. We moved to different systems, gel cells and different things to block off water. We looked at our stations running steps. I see you don't have that here. You have problems with you walk right in off the sidewalk to the stairs. It rains and water goes down the stairs. Well, if you put a step up to go down, the water doesn't come in. So there's a lot of little lessons you can learn, but then you have to build the big lessons into the programs. And you have a lot of good people here right now. Do you have the funding? So you have to build it in.
Which is always one of the larger issues that affects us.
It is, but it's also what's the vision? I know that you had a history with general managers. You rotated through a lot of general managers over a short period of time. So it's hard to carry a mission and a vision when your leader keeps changing and the direction keeps changing. So, you know, you hope that a Phil Lang stays around. You hope that you have that longevity and he could build a succession plan and you could build that. But you need that executive piece. And I would say a lot of the sour things that happen here were because of that leadership loss. You just kept getting cut from the top. So we hope that Phil stays around to his vision and mission, and we could set up the programs that are necessary.
The fact that the MBTA has been dealing with financial pieces and budget shortfalls and fiscal cliffs, it's no secret. It's very much out in the open. But how do you, as a leader, balance the very real financial restrictions with both immediate infrastructure needs as well as long-term goals and planning, considering these limitations?
We're doing things like working with the warehousing. We're moving things to warehousing, inventory control, and asset management. We have a lot of materials here, but nobody knows what we have. We keep buying things year after year here, and nobody even knows if you need them and what they're for. So we're working on asset management, inventory control, basic things like that. We're looking at accountability. We're looking at hours of work or wrench time, because you always have to look at wrench time on a daily basis. So you want to be the most effective and efficient with your workforce that you currently have and set up the processes. You don't want to get 2 hours work. If I get 4 hours work, that's 100% increase. That decreased cost and increases production and state of good repair. So you need to look at it from the basic pieces right now. Yeah, we're looking at long term, but we don't have that right now. So I have to look at today and tomorrow on how we do things. Broadbanding of titles, labor picks. We're looking at production, bringing production into house. If you look at a lot of the stations, we're doing a lot of production work, LED lighting projects we're taking on, AC breaker houses, improving those. Signal, we're looking at new products, capacitor stops, new cabling, new connections to reduce the cost, give you the efficiency moving forward. So you're always looking for that, the physical piece, but you have to do it on a day-to-day and train the people. Culturally, we really didn't look at that here. Like we're looking at FRP, fiberglass products, aluminum products, stainless steel benches instead of wood benches that people could carve their names in. So there's a ton of things we're looking at to improve, make it more effective, bring it to a state of repair, lower the maintenance costs, extend the maintenance cycles. And we're looking at technologies. A lot of it is technology. We're looking at like eddy current to show us broken rails better. Today, we were talking about bringing a vendor on to do tie scanning. So we could say, when a tie is bad, how many bad ties do I need? What's the cycle going to be? Can we go to plastic? Can we go to concrete? What does the drainage system look like? Working with the TFM, Dennis Farley, what does the drainage look like? So we're looking at all of it and what best suits. Our biggest problem is we don't have that long-term funding, is establishing how much money you have. We were talking last night about the Orange Line and building out concrete and fixing the stations and the slabs. And the bottom line is it comes down to there's a big cost. Could we get a 50-year product? Yeah. Could we support that 50-year product? So we're kind of like we're picking modulars and different ways to move, but we can't launch yet. We just don't have those pieces yet. So I would say you start out with basic accountability and wrench time, and that's where you start your process. Sharing of trucks. Do we need 5 trucks? Do I need 5? Does everybody need a hammer?
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't need a hammer. Everybody wants a hammer. They want their own truck. They want because the culture, it's the way it is. I don't talk to this guy down the hall. No, you have to talk to the guy down the hall, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to do the job? So we have to look at each job, each process, and come up with the most efficient, effective, and look for continuous improvement. Always continuous improvement, safety, and always the public. Public comes first.
During service diversions, and truthfully, anytime any work is really taking place on the system, we're often asked if internal departments are handling the work or if we're using contractors. And, it can be a hot button issue going one way or the other. But can you tell us about the makeup and the capacity of the different departments you oversee, like MOW, power, signals, and explain where and how contractors can come into play?
We're doing a lot of contract work right now. If you look at the TIP program, 90% of the work is probably contractors. I know the first job when I got here was a Ashmont job. And it was the first time we integrated MOW people with the contractors. And it was a little bit of pushback. But once they got out there, they realized because the job started running south, we started commingling. And nobody had ever put them together before on the same job. The workers said, oh, it's the contractor's work. I said, no, it's your work. They're helping you. You own it. So we're the asset owner. We have the house. They were working for us. Hey, you have to help sweep the floor and do something. You have to do it. So we're increasing that. We have a lot of people working on the Orange Line right now. We hired up, probably an additional 100 heads. We're working a production group. We're starting to do a lot of tie installation, a lot of rail installation. We've created a thermite group now to do thermite welding. We're looking at bringing other capabilities in, our own heavy equipment operators, our own work trains. So we're looking to take a lot of that on because it's more cost effective. And you're in charge of your own destiny. You don't have to have all the support. We're looking at all of that. Me, Dennis, Phil, Sam, executive group, we believe we could do a lot of this work, save a lot of cost, be more cost effective, means we could do more and better work. So that's our ultimate goal, is to do that work in-house and be in charge of our own destiny, not dependent on contractors. But we did bring in a lot of competition. If you see with the contractors, when I started, we only had really one contractor that did most of our work on it as far as the track, and I'm only speaking MOW. But now we have competition, 3, 4, 5. And now we're seeing production going up, cost is going down, and now we're coupling our people with it. So we're getting a lot more for the money in a lot less time, and we're getting that ownership back. We're starting to get a lot of pride, a lot of ownership. We did this, not somebody else, and we're hoping that culture will drive it forward where we take more of that work in-house. Power people are taking a lot on. They're doing the LED lightings. We're looking at an LED lighting program in the tunnels. So they're doing a lot of the cable pulling. We're hoping to take over part of the GLTPS, the new signal system that we're looking in. We're hoping that we have a lot of involvement in that and the radio antenna and fiber projects. So we are trying to pull a lot of that into the house, increase our workforce, and increase the wrench time. So hopefully that's where we're going to head. That's the goal, ultimate goal. Do a cheap, efficient, effective, long-term product and keep the costs down.
And I think that's something that our riders are already getting to witness. I remember the general manager mentioned something. He mentioned the volume of work that was completed during the month-long shutdown back in 2022 on the Orange Line, and talked about, I think it was just the most recent Red Line diversion. And when you look at the duration to quantity of work accomplished, it was, multitudes over in a shorter period of time. There's that seeing is believing component. And the other thing is, it's not just, oh, hey, we replace this feet of rail, what have you. On our side of the world, we see the rider comments, and we have been drowning in positivity, which is a rare statement at the MBTA, but we've been drowning in that positivity of people who are actually feeling this benefit. And it's not a one-off. It's just kind of the new status quo. And I think that's what breeds so much excitement and belief and hope, I think, in the MBTA right now.
Well, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. We're trying our best. We really are to give the people what they deserve. That is the ultimate goal.
One of the challenges the MBTA is still working to rectify are speed restrictions. The track improvement program is well underway and on track to remove all of the speed restrictions by the end of the year, as Phil had promised at the onset back in November of 2023. But the thing is, people want to know these improvements are real and that they'll stick. But once we remove all those speed restrictions, people want to know they won't start popping up again. What specific steps are you taking to ensure a more robust maintenance and record-keeping process to prevent operational shutdowns like the one we experienced back in 2023?
Speed restrictions are going to pop up. They're part of life. They're part of the business. They're part of what we do. It's a matter of proactivity and preventability and predictability versus the knee-jerk reactive culture or society that we had here. So we need to identify them. What are we doing to identify it earlier? We're reacting to them now. If you even looked when we did the Red Line, 2 popped up on the Ashmont line. Okay. And the MOW people immediately took an action to go out and repair that. That's what we're looking to do. As soon as they come up, we're going to react to it. Okay. However, it's predictive. That was picked up by a geometry car. The geometry car is a technology that utilizes various lasers and optical features and measuring devices. Okay, it measures certain things like the gauge between the rails, the vertical or a curve where you go into a valley or you make a left-hand or right-hand curve. It'll measure the elevation or the banking, super elevation of the curve. It'll tell you whether a straight track is straight or if it has a kink or a knuckle or if a curve is twisted. It'll tell you twists in the track. So it tells you a lot of data. That data has certain parameters that if it goes to a certain level, it's considered a safety concern. At that point, we have to put in certain restrictions or repairs. We also use an optical car, which measures head and side wear of rails. We have a UT car that tells us if there's any flaws inside of the steel rail. We're bringing in FLIR, which is thermal imaging, tie scanning. Eddy current tells us the head of the rail. It's a different type of technology that can increase our ability to tell if a rail is going to fail. So we couple all of these systems together. We're looking to create a new manual right now, which I'm hoping will be done before the end of the year for MOW for standards. Our standards sometimes didn't fit reality and best practice. So we're hoping that that will help cure some of the things because we had a manual that said we must do A, B, C, and D. But a lot of it wasn't good. It wasn't right. It wasn't done properly. So we're fixing the manual, the processes. We're increasing the training of the inspectors and the layers of inspections and the way they're brought forward. We're also cleaning out the asset management data system, which Megan's doing an excellent job. I think we're getting close. We know what scope we didn't do. So now we have a better idea of what we have out there. So we have a better scope of what we're up against or our life cycle wise of what we need. We're also looking at, with some of the OCE people with the engineering groups, they're looking at repeat locations. So we're tracking better and trending our repeaters. Where do we have a known problem? What could we do better in that problem? If it comes up every 4 months, hey, let's go there in 3 months. Let's do maintenance. So we're proactively looking and preventively looking, plus sustainability. What are the products we're using? So we're looking at products that last longer and fastness. If we have a curve, we know we have to replace the rail. It's going to wear every 3 years. We'll plan it in for every 3 years instead of waiting until we have to put a slow speed. And now it's a panic and you can't get there. We're stacking up on these things. So there's a lot of different things we're looking for: preventability, predictability, to be proactive, to take charge of it. But when it does pop up that we can't recognize it, such as a geometry car that goes out and says, hey, you got something bouncing here, we're going to respond immediately. We don't want it to impact the public, and we don't want it to become this large problem. Right? It's a small problem. Let's fix it and look what's there. So that's another piece, is when we go in to do a repair, take a track out, we're not looking to go there to fix one thing. If we have a track out, we're looking to fix the lights, we're looking to fix the platform, we're looking to jetter and clean the drains and do the walkways and do all the other things that time and that access provides. So we want to efficiently and effectively use that time in that reaction of whatever we're doing and plan it. So plan. I think we're doing better. We're on the way. Ways to go. But we're looking at RWP, roadway worker, access rules, last train. So there's a lot of things going on right now, dynamics, to fix all of this.
One of the things that we frequently say internally and sometimes externally, we liken speed restrictions to potholes, where they're going to happen. They pop up here and there. But the biggest thing is to deal with them as they're coming up versus waiting until the entire road crumbles to say, hey, maybe we should repave this. And it sounds like that's kind of the direction that you and your team is going, with a new approach that won't necessarily result in system-wide speed restrictions being put into place overnight or things of that nature like we experienced before.
No, that's correct. And we're looking at the geometry issue that created that, and the data and the algorithm. So we're aware of that problem. We're working with the geometry vendors to see what the best processes are to capture that data. And the frequencies. What are those frequencies that those inspections need to be to give us what we need to get out there? So those not only tell you it's a slow speed, but they tell you something that's getting close to it. So we were only looking at this reactive piece. But meanwhile, we had a lot of data, but we were buried by the higher defects. So as you're getting these higher defects out, now we can plan better and be more effective. So
it's an interesting trend. We've had a few other folks on the podcast who've really leaned heavily on utilizing data that maybe pre-existing, but was not potentially being utilized in the way it could be. I remember we had Ryan Caholen on, and he was talking about being able to use data to know when certain engines were going to fail. And it wasn't just run hours. There were certain key metrics that they would be able to use in order to predict, so that they could, again, go and be proactive, utilize that maintenance and keep things running, rather than, oh, it's out of commission, now we have to deal with it.
Yes, definitely. That's where we're looking to go. The new technology, like we're bringing in the laser system that's coming on board, that's magnetic, that's deployable. So if you have a problem that's pumping track or shifting curves, it'll tell you real-time Wi-Fi.
Wow.
We have thermometers now that are self-reporting. So we could tell the temperature of the rail to stop heat kinks and know where there's problems and pull aparts. So we're deploying that. So there's a lot of little technology pieces that are coming on board. Like I spoke to the thermal that'll show me grounding cables, like heating third rail, failures along the right of way in the signal system, electrical problems. So these systems are coming on. CCTV cameras on the catenary cars to show us what the catenary looks like. What's the interaction between a pantograph and the catenary? So before we're getting an arm that's loose or a cable that's out of whack, in geometry or proportion, we can now proactively get that data, look at it, and go out and do the repair before it's a delay or a problem or slow speed. So we're bringing in a lot of new technology, new assets, new crane cars are coming in to help us bring the materials out, do the rails, new OCS or wire cars to do the repairs or on order. They're coming in next year, I believe, the end of next year. So we're looking at a lot of new technologies, track mobile carts, which have suspension systems to reduce the derailment problem we've been having with doing the new work, delivering transformers and different things. So a lot of technology, a lot of equipment-based solutions that we're bringing in. So hopefully that'll help us do that preventive maintenance in the front end instead of the back.
That's good to hear. Obviously, one of the primary focus points for the MBTA right now is the track improvement program. As its namesake says, it's, primary focus is the track itself, but it's good to hear that there's additional work taking place for power and for signals and other systems that are also integral for a safe and reliable MBTA ride.
Oh, definitely. And part of it is when we do the TIP program, when we do have the surges, we bring a lot of people out to do inspections. We're kind of locked in with our work groups with the FTA and how many people we can have on track safely. But we try to ensure, like the Red Line, we had bridge inspectors to come out to do the Anderson and the Ponza, to inspect the bridges and the structures, to gather that work, get the asset, understand what it is and what we need to do. What do we need to do? We may not be able to plan for today, but now we're set for tomorrow. So there's a lot of that kind of work going on to understand what we're up against to move forward. So we're taking advantage and we're getting better and better at each one as far as improvements, signage, trees, vegetation, drain covers, stuck banks. So each one we improve and we look and we hot wash out and say, what do we miss? What could we do better? What do we need funding? How do we improve? So I think it's been a very effective program. I know we'll have shutdowns next year and the year after. May not be called the TIP or may have a new name, but every time that track goes out, we're going to continue the process to continually improve and keep moving this business forward for the people.
So speaking of next year, we're already nearing the end of 2024. What are your key priorities for improving the system in 2025?
State of good repair, what affects the public is key. Keeping them safe, getting them where they need to be in a safe fashion is always the priority. Signal system, I would say signal and power. If we say TIP is over with, we have to go to signal and power. Power system and signal system, pretty old. There's a lot of upgrades. There's a lot of projects coming right now. I would say that needs to be integrated. I have a little group going to talk about electrical, because electrical here is pretty much everything was segregated. Oh, you handle antenna. Well, how does your antenna affect the signal? I don't care. I'm antenna. So we're trying to look at tunnel wall space, racking, messaging, where you can bundle these projects and more effectively run them. If I have a shutdown, now you could do the antenna, I could do fiber optic, you could do your signal work and use common contractors with in-house people. So we're looking at how we can improve that process. But signal and power, I would love to look at. If you had Dennis Volley sitting in a chair, he'd say stations and elevators and escalators. Yeah, we have a lot of competing goals, right?
Yeah.
Whatever my answer is today may not be the answer tomorrow, right? But I have a lot of priorities and where I want to be. Building out those programs is the program approach is my real priority. State of good repair, maintaining what we have, not losing it, not losing ground, keep moving forward.
And all those are, I think, will be greatly appreciated by our riders. Looking even further beyond 2025, what are some of the long-term goals you hope to accomplish in your role to ensure a safer, more efficient MBTA for riders?
Well, I spoke to the programs, but the programs have to be built out. It's people that run programs. So I would say when you really look long-term, it's teaching somebody to fish, right? Selling those ideas and building out that culture, giving them the tools to work with. So your long-term is having somebody where I could say, they don't need me anymore, right? And I'm proud of what they're doing, right? So that's to walk away. I'm at the end of my career, but I need to ensure whatever work that I'm doing and the people that I'm working with are confident, have all the tools, have everything they need to move forward where it doesn't go back to where it was, right? And so that would be for me, because my long-term's not long. I'm a little bit up there in years right now, right? So is building out that succession plan and ensuring that everything's in play to carry the MBTA into the future. So that's where I'm at in my mind. Will we love to be the best in the country? Yeah, and we could be there. Unfortunately, I don't have the time, but I could provide the people and the skills and the equipment and everything that's needed to move that. And that's where I'm at. That's what I want to do in the time that I'm here. Build that team, get it ready, give it the proper processes and everything it needs to go forward.
Well, it sounds like we're heading in the right direction. Doug, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and this has been extraordinarily insightful.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak our piece.
And with that, we come to the close of another episode of Spilling the Tea. I want to thank Doug Connett for sharing his knowledge and vision for the future of the MBTA's infrastructure that will have a lasting impact on the T and its riders. To our listeners, thank you for joining us. Your curiosity and support keep us motivated to explore the essential topics that shape our transit system. Be sure to subscribe to Spilling the Tea on your favorite podcast platform and stay tuned for more behind-the-scenes stories from the MBTA. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please reach out to us at social@mbta.com. We love incorporating your ideas and feedback into our discussions. Until next time, I'm Andrew Cassidy, and this has been Spilling the Tea.